Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It's January 12th. These are your headlines. First up, Massachusetts has now made it official that they will be adopting the trophy tog slot, so that's good news. Also hearing about excellent largemouth bass fishing in Massachusetts waters this week. And don't forget about the Narragansett Surfcaster Surf Day, which is on Saturday this weekend. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites.
So before we begin, I just have a couple of news items for you guys this week. The first one is the announcement of the adoption of the trophy tog slot in Massachusetts. If you don't know what that is, basically, you know, the limits are different throughout the season. We're not going to go through every limit. You can look that up online. But the basics of it are that whatever the limit happens to be, so let's say it's 4 fish in that part of the season, you can keep 3 fish that are between 16 and less than 21 inches, and then 1 fish that's over 21 inches if you happen to catch one, or you could fill out your whole limit with fish that are inside the slot. The reason they're doing this is so like the 16-inch minimum, that kind of guarantees that every blackfish spawns at least once. And then the most robust spawners are those fish over 21 inches. So this is a way to make it possible to still keep a big fish, but also make it so that most of these larger fish are released and keeping those robust spawners in the gene pool, if you will. I think it's a really progressive approach to managing fisheries. It's something that we haven't seen in many other species, and if you use striped bass as an example, you can see why it's a good idea to be proactive and, kind of take a little bit of a hit, a voluntary hit now, so that we don't have to take a bigger hit in the future when things get, when the stocks get lower. So I really like this. Rhode Island did it all last year. I talked to a lot of charter captains in Rhode Island. They said, nearly all of them said that it didn't affect their business at all. So I really like to see this, and I'm glad to see that Massachusetts followed suit. The next thing, of course, is the Narragansett Surfcaster Surf Day. That runs from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. this weekend on the 14th, and that's going to be at the Narragansett Community Center. It's on Mumford Road in Narragansett, and it's kind of like an old-school flea market atmosphere. You got custom plug builders, you've got guys selling used tackle, you've got some people with some awesome collections of old lures. We will be there giving away, actually, I think I have some with me here. We're going to be giving away the Lone Diablo inline single hooks along with the subscriptions this weekend. So when you think about it, these hooks, this is a 9.0. I think we have 5 or 6 that are available at the show. And these hooks cost $13 a pack. So when you think about that, it's $30 for a subscription. That's 12 paper issues sent to your mailbox, plus another 28 that come to your email box every week during the season. So from April to November, you're going to get a digital edition every week that you do not get a paper edition. When you think about that, it's $30 for that. We're going to give you $13 back. So what is that? $17 for all that. I think it's totally worth it. Definitely stop by the show this weekend, say hello, and hopefully going to pull a few new subscribers out of it, so come on by and check us out, and we'll give you some new hooks to play with. And the last thing, of course, is the giveaway. Still having some electrical issues in the shop. I just actually talked to an electrician, so hopefully we're going to get him in here this week so I can start building again. So I don't yet have the example, but I'm going to make a jointed GT for you guys. I'm going to paint it up in some wintry colors, even though this hasn't really been a wintry winter so far. But by now you know the drill. Send the pictures to me at danderson@thefisherman.com or text them to the number on the screen. And again, if you email them to me, please put contest or giveaway in the subject line of the email so that I can filter them out and find them easily. This one's going to wrap up on March 1st. I got to tell you though, I did get a really good photo this week that might be hard to beat. So, take your best shots, send them in to me, and we'll crown a new winner on March 1st. Moving over into Massachusetts, it's been a mild January so far, and that has translated to a lot of open water. We had some ice for a little while there, but now it's all gone. And so we're hearing about some really good bass fishing throughout Massachusetts. But before we get into that, let's toss it over now to James Jukes, hear what's going on up on the North Shore.
This week's report is pretty much a carbon copy of the last week. No fishable ice. Guys are driving 2 or 3 hours north of here to find some fishable ice. Make sure you spud bar your ice if you're out there, checking thicknesses along the way. Don't put yourself in harm's way. With that said, down here, the open water fishing is slow as molasses. Guys are still finding some carp in the Merrimack. They're still getting some largemouth and perch. They're still even finding a few trout in the stocked areas that are holding over fairly well. The striper holdovers are so slow, it's almost non-existent. So it's been tough out there. But like I said, you get out and, get comfortable, find yourself a spot, and you could find yourself a nice fish. Anyways, Dave, one other thing I have to say is please try and get out and give blood or blood products, whole blood, platelets. I do preach this quite a bit, but there's always somebody in need, and you can give for free. I get some t-shirts and things like that when you go, so think about it. Anyways, Dave, till next week, we'll see what happens. Get some of those home projects done.
So as I was just kind of getting into or alluding to is this really good largemouth bass bite that's opened up over the last week or so. If you remember in last week's report, we were talking about Dan Southwick, who's one of, in my opinion, one of the best largemouth bass fishermen in New England. And he was pulling some nice fish. He had a 6 and a 5, pulling them off of deep rocky structure with a jig. He said he was just looking on the screen, find some rocks, drop the jig down, and see who's home. And then if there's nothing there, or even if there was, move on to the next rock pile. So it was kind of a hunt and peck thing, but it was really working for him. And then in the days since then, I've seen a couple more really nice fish taken. I saw my buddy Mike Lucini, who I haven't seen in a long time, but he posted a really nice fish that he took. Looked like it was probably pushing 6 pounds anyway. That was taken on a jerkbait. And that's one of my favorite ways to do it. I know it was a 110 size jerkbait, the post says, probably was a mega bass. And so that's been really popular. I think these, last week was kind of a mild week, but it was kind of a gloomy week. We had a couple weather systems come through. I think that just kind of perked those fish up. And so we saw that fish. That was probably taken somewhere out around the Cape, knowing him. And then we also saw, a friend of the report, Coral Aiello. She had a really nice bass this week as well, which was taken in Massachusetts waters. So that's 4 really nice fish that we heard of. I'm sure there were many others. And now we're kind of in a lull right now. It's a little colder right now. It's going to go through the weekend. It's a little bit chillier. But then next week we're going to warm up again. We're going to get up to the 50s and high 40s again. So I'm thinking, with what we're seeing, or with what we saw last week and what we've got coming, we may see another uptick in largemouth activity. So definitely, if you've got any inspiration at all to fish, make it happen that week, because you got a good shot at getting a really nice fish. Then out on the Cape, I was talking to Ian from the Goose, and he said that nighttime largemouth, that nighttime brown trout bite is still kicking. He sent me this video of another release of a nice fish, and what he's doing, he's just basically live lining shiners. So he's going out right after dark or early in the morning before the sun comes up. He's just hooking the shiner once, no float, no weight, no nothing, and just kind of casting it out there and live lining it, just feeding it line, letting it swim around, and he's getting these nice brown trout. I also got these photos from Sean O'Neill, who was fishing one of the Plymouth ponds, and he was doing really well in the daytime on live shiners. So as you can see, the trout fishing is going strong, whether you're fishing day or night. You've got a good shot at getting some fish, and the bite's really good. In fact, if you want to check out a little bit more about that, check out the video that I shot with Ian last winter that talks about doing just that, about fishing on the Cape with about trout fishing out on the Cape. And the last thing we're hearing about in Massachusetts is a few guys plying the Cape Cod estuaries for striped bass. It's been slow going, but I did see a video from one of the guys on Instagram who got a really nice fish. Looked like about a 20-pound fish. So there are some fish being taken, but from all the reports I'm hearing, it's slow going. But there are a few fish around in there, and that's a story that I have for you guys in Massachusetts this week. Heading over into Rhode Island, most of the party boats, most of the charter boats are either shrink wrapped or just sitting on the slip right now. but there are still a few boats that are running out of Point Judith, and one of those is the Francis Fleet. And what I've been hearing from them is they're doing pretty well on codfish. It's not a gangbusters, Donnybrook type of a situation, but they're moving around, they're hitting a lot of reefs, they're hitting a lot of wrecks, they're hitting a lot of ledges, and by the end of the day of all that, musical chairs hopping around, they're putting together pretty good catches of codfish. They did say that there had been one day where they had, a really good flurry of action. They had like 10 fish in 15 minutes off of one piece of structure. But, most of these fish are coming on bait, but they are drifting and jigging and getting some fish as well. So the codfish bite, out around Cox's and surrounding areas continues on, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. It's not gangbusters, but it's pretty good. And if you head out on one of these boats, you're probably going to come home with some food for the table. The other saltwater thing that's happening in Rhode Island is more holdover striped bass fishing. Most of what I'm hearing about in Rhode Island is smaller fish. So schoolie-sized fish. They're coming from a lot of different places. They're coming from the Providence River, the Seekonk River, coming from some of the other estuaries up inside Narragansett Bay, a few around Narragansett, and then all the way out to the salt pond. So it's, like I say, it's kind of a hunt and peck thing. It's better off if you're in a kayak or a boat where you can use the electronics to find the fish. But they are out there, and they are biting if you can find them. But most of these fish have been on the smaller side. And then the only other thing I've heard in Rhode Island, I saw a post from our buddy Jeff Sullivan, and he had a nice couple largemouth yesterday or Tuesday actually throwing the Ned rig, and he said that he's been doing really well on the Ned, and that's another one of those great wintertime baits. Just a little tiny little finesse bait, very unassuming, really slow, just kind of dragging it along, moving it incrementally, but it's getting a lot of fish, and those things will catch any fish in the lake. So you can get everything that swims in the lake with those things. But that's the only other thing I've heard in Rhode Island. And that's the story in the Ocean State. Moving over into Connecticut, there's really two main games in Connecticut right now. You've either got holdover striped bass fishing or you've got trout fishing in the rivers. The Farmington and the Salmon River have been pumping out a lot of fish right now. For a little more on that, let's toss it over to Derek Kirkpatrick from Connecticut Fish Guides.
Hey Dave, current conditions on the Farmington. We're starting to see the water recede a little bit. Last time we spoke about high water and being careful, waiting. Any precipitation that we get right now is probably going to put us right back where we were at with the flows above 1,000. So the fishing's been pretty good. Fishing your larger entomology, so stuff like case caddis, mops that can represent Pinopsyche, stoneflies, squirms, junk flies, eggs, stuff like that is going to produce well in high flows. We are seeing a little bit of midges, but you're really gonna have to focus subsurface probably in the slower water with those. You might be more apt to get numbers, but again, the larger fish, you're looking for bigger food items. Also, your jigs have continued to take some large fish as well. So whether you fish the jig under an indicator or on a tight line system, there'll most likely be one or two windows during the full course of the day where fish will get on those. Something we should talk about is handling fish in the wintertime. Most people are going to be wearing gloves. If you're going to handle a fish for a photo or an extended amount of time, take off your gloves so you're not removing the protective slime coating on the fish. If the temps are below freezing, you're going to want to keep the fish in your net, in your basket, and in the water. You have to be mindful that their gills and their eyes can freeze over and do damage to the fish. So wet hands, quick photos, keep them wet during this time of the year. We're seeing a lot of females holdover being caught, and that's most likely due to post-spawn, and they're still trying to pack on some weight for the winter here while we have this warming trend. This warming trend looks like it's going to continue. So I definitely prefer, as we've talked about in the past, clear skies. You get that sun spike, which is really important in the winter. So don't focus too much on air temps. You can have some outstanding days with overcast days if you get bugs. If you don't have bugs, it's probably going to be a bite window thing. But on those days where you get a good temperature spike with the water, that's where you're going to have your consistent higher number days. So best of luck to anybody getting out. Just remember, if you're fishing in high flows, You do not need to wade out far. The fish are pretty close to the bank. The higher the water is, the closer they are to the bank. Back to you, Dave.
I also know Rowan Lytle's been bouncing around all over the place like he always does. There's not a fish in that state that Rowan doesn't fish for. He's going to send us a report too. I don't have it yet, so I don't know exactly what he's going to talk about, but I know he's going to at least talk a little bit about trout. So let's stay in that same vein. Let's toss it over now to Rowan.
Still got incredibly mild weather here in the lower Connecticut River Valley. I'm still on the trout grind for the most part, but things have picked up for me in terms of e-socks lately. Now, most of the Connecticut River spots that I usually fly fish for pike are too high. That doesn't mean that someone fishing live bait or lures or fishing from a boat couldn't get it done, but I'm usually shore bound this time of year and fishing the fly rod exclusively, so I have not been able to get on many pike. That said, chain pickerel are pretty active through the winter too, and although they're a lesser target for most people, they're an absolute riot on light tackle. This time of year I retrieve a little bit slower, but any body of water that you've got open water and contains chain pickerel, you're likely to find some bruisers this time of year. This is often when you pick up big pre-spawn females, January into February. If you got open water, it could be the best time to get really, really large pickerel. Look at any body of water that has trout stocked in it or high abundances of golden shiners. Those tend to be the places that produce the largest pickerel. But yeah, get after some e-socks and good luck out there.
So as you can see, the trout fishing in Connecticut is going strong, firing on all cylinders. You got some rivers out west as well that are producing great fishing for trout. But the other thing that we're hearing about freshwater-wise is up on the Connecticut River, the coves are producing a lot of fish. You can catch pike, you can catch bass, you can catch striped bass, and you can catch a whole bunch of different kinds of panfish, from calicos and perch, sunfish, all that stuff. I've been up there many times in the wintertime. I'm always struck by how many species you can catch on the Connecticut River, even on the coldest days. So if you've got any kind of inspiration to be out there fishing right now, that's definitely a good place to go, whether you're in the kayak, in a boat, or fishing from shore. The other thing that's getting a lot of attention, of course, is holdover striped bass fishing. We're hearing about fish from all of the places where you'd expect to hear them. There's some fish up in the Thames, there's fish in some of those coves in the Connecticut River, there's a few in some of these smaller tributaries, like up inside of Niantic Bay, up in the back there, and of course the Housatonic is pumping out good numbers of fish right now. In the Housy, most of the fish have moved north now, so you're from the Sportsplex or even Sunnyside north now. Fishing's been good. The daytime guys are putting a lot of fish on the boat. The nighttime guys are finding some bigger ones. Saw another post of a really nice fish taken this week. I'll put that up on the screen here. So the Housatonic is putting out good numbers of fish again. Still putting out good numbers of fish. And again, it's nighttime, it's better for big fish. Daytime, you can put up numbers. The big bait this year has been the Albie snacks, and I don't mean the super snacks. I mean the little Albie snacks, and the amber has been the color. I look at that thing, and fishing it on a lead head like they are, it's almost like a big Ned rig. Very similar shape. I imagine they're probably fishing it very similarly, just kind of bouncing it through the current, trying not to move it too much. But that's been a really great bait this year. And for a little bit more on the Housatonic and other things that are going on out west, let's toss it over now to Max Finch from Fisherman's World.
Hey everyone, Max here from Fisherman's World with another weekly fishing report. I'm finishing up my boat for the winter, but there's still some good fishing to be had from shorebound anglers. The trout fishing remains steady in the Saugatuck, the Norwalk River, and the Mianus. Also, guys hitting the Housatonic for the holdover striped bass. The bass fishing's actually been really good at nighttime, like anglers finding 35 to even 42-inch stripers. In the daytime, it's a lot more smaller fish. Try upping your size of your offering. You might not get as many fish, but you sure will find some quality fish in the slot range and maybe some above slot. Mostly from the Merritt Bridge up, the usual haunts, Sports Complex up to O'Sullivan's Island, guys fishing that whole stretch, Sunnyside School. Scale down on your gear this time of year. You can use a lighter surf rod, 15 to 20 pound fluorocarbon, and a 1/4 ounce to 3/4 ounce lure. Thanks and good luck.
Hey guys, this is Ben Gilmore checking in from Marina Pez Vela, Costa Rica. This week we got the Pelagic Rockstar Tournament. It's the biggest tournament of the year down here at Marina Pez Vela. Right now we got 96 boats registered, hoping for a few more the next couple of days. We kick off fishing this Friday and Saturday. We're fishing for sailfish, marlin, tuna, and dorado. There's more than 1 million bucks on the line down here. My little boat Good Day is going to be in the tournament. Wish us luck, guys. Right now out there we got a great marlin bite, mainly blue marlin at the moment, and lots of sailfish too. Just yesterday we released 7 sailfish, 1 blue marlin, and a nice big dorado as well. So great fishing going on. The full moon a few days back messed up the inshore fishing just a little bit, but the last couple of days we got cranking again. We got snook, we got snapper, and we got rooster fish along the beaches. Hope to see you guys down here soon. Come and escape the cold. Come and see us in sunny Costa Rica. Back to you guys.
That's what I have for you guys in the reports this week. Hopefully it inspires you to get out there. We don't get warm Januaries like this very often, so definitely need to get out there and take advantage of it. There's a lot of fishing to be had. There's a lot of species biting right now. We've got more open water than we normally have at this time, so I feel bad for you if you're an ice fisherman, but if you're not, man, you've got a lot of opportunities that you're just letting go by the wayside. So start the year off right. Get out there and go catch some fish. If you're not a subscriber to the Fisherman, I highly recommend heading over to the website and checking us out. And don't forget, we've got winter shows coming up, and we've got really good giveaways this year, including a whole bunch of different kinds of BKK hooks. These hooks are so sharp you almost can't get near them without drawing blood. So come see us at the Narragansett Surfcasters Surf Day this weekend, or any of the other shows we've got coming up. We'll talk about those in future videos. But at the very least, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube, and hit that little bell thing down there so you get a notification every time we post something new. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.